Hello, welcome back to our second part of the live stream at round 8. We'll join you much later in the day now after various technical difficulties. Hopefully, for the rest of the day, you should escape unscathed, hopefully. So, I'll be underway with live commentary from around the circuit and on the stream very, very shortly. Currently underway are the Dart Motorsport in their first heat. Hello and good morning once again. About an hour and a half after I initially introduced you to the day's action, technical difficulty upon technical difficulty has been heaped upon us here, but hopefully now it should be up and running, and the alpha timing is always there, available for you to see as well, but also live on our YouTube channel, Pigeon Kart. You can check out the alpha timing along with this live commentary over there. So once again, welcome to the action. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the first round of heats. We are currently on the final of the first heats, and it is the Dart Motorsport Pro Karts class, and I believe it's their debut hero play. Maybe they have been here before, but if they were, then I certainly wasn't here because I don't recognise the name. I think they're a relatively new championship as well, Dart Motorsport. I can't see anything published further ago than 2019, so I get the impression it's a fairly new championship, but they're pretty quick and capable drivers. We've got 8 drivers out there on the track at the moment. They will of course be abiding by the same amount of timings as the rest of the classes out there on the track today. As they meet Clay Pigeon for what we assume is the first time, it's Archie Sherwood who currently leads the way in the number 2. And he is just over 2 seconds clear from Lewis Nurse, with Chris Williams and Nick Williams 3rd and 4th. Don't know whether those two names are affiliated with each other or whether it's a coincidence, but nonetheless, glorious sunny skies here today in Dorset at Clay Pigeon Raceway. It's the 8th round of the championship, of course. We are getting towards the tail end of the championship, despite missing a few rounds in the middle. We are now very much getting towards the business end, and we should hopefully have the rest of the rounds uninterrupted. Sorry. See, towards the middle part of the year, with lockdown, it's an impossibility to race around the track. I think this is the 3rd round back after post-lockdown in this topsy-turvy year, and huge amount of races here, of course, to enjoy today. This is race number 7 of 32, so a huge amount of action still to get through before the end of the day. Each of the heats, of the 23 heats that we've got lined up, will be 8 minutes long, with the 12-minute long finals and the 8-minute long B finals, of which we have 2, I believe. In this particular 8-minute final, we are ticking down towards the final 90 seconds now. Sherwood continues to lead the way, continues to open up that lead as well, over 2.5 seconds separating him and closest competitor, number 44, Lewis Nurse. Wonder if this Lewis is taking inspiration from another Lewis who sports number 44. The race leader making his way towards the top end, and he'll head back onto the pit straight. Good to see other classes that we don't normally see, of course. That's Clay Pigeon. We've seen several over the last few years come and go. Formula Blues are here once more. They often make 2 or 3 appearances over the course of the season, but I actually think they've been here maybe 3 months on the bounce now for Formula Blue, which is good to see. So far, so good for Archie Sherwood in the lead of this one. Into our final minute of racing now. Next race will be the Junior Rotax for their second heat of 4. The 2 Rotax classes, ignoring Minimax, will both have 4 heats today due to grid sizes. This Dart Motorsport series then. Did do a little bit of research and found out that next up there at Wilton Mill, but I think they've got a couple of rounds perhaps left after that one. Into the final 10 seconds of the race. Will leader Sherwood get to the start-finish line before that timer hits 0? I think it's going to be, was it 1 second left? I'm not entirely sure. Williams, Nick Williams and Joseph Fitch not too far apart. Certainly Fitch, who's a novice, is right back of Nick Williams actually. That's a potential manoeuvre for 4th back on the cards. Out of the top end then, last lap board, and well, checkered flag being prepared, but it is the last lap board that is shown to Archie Sherwood, who will have to head round one more time for claiming a dominant victory. Fastest lap of the race actually on a few laps ago. There's 36.33 set by Sherwood. No surprise to see his gap become thoroughly dominant. Lewis Nurse was able to catch up somewhat on that previous lap, but not enough to heap any pressure onto the comfortable race leader. Here comes the checkered flag then, and the first winner of Dart Motorsport at Clay Pigeon Raceway is Archie Sherwood. He takes the win in this heat. Lewis Nurse in second position, Chris Williams, and it is Joseph Fitch who does come across the line in 4th then, so very impressive from the novice. He finishes in the top half of the field with Nick Williams in 5th. 6th goes to Jack Reeve with Charlie French in 7th, and 8th goes to James Reeve, who comes across the line now, the number 6. And he will conclude the first race of Dart Motorsport at Clay Pigeon Raceway. And next up will be Junior Rotax, race number 8 of the day. Wonderful weather outside, which is good to see, hopefully. Some enticing racing out there as well. Max out on track, then always a very quick, slick turnaround here at Clay Pigeon Raceway. They're heading towards the top end where acceleration will start hopefully very shortly if the marshal allows it. No, we are going to go around one more time. One more formation lap for the Junior Max as some of the drivers towards the front of the grid let others know. Green flag with a yellow chevron, a lesser spotted flag being shown to the drivers there, indicating that they are not racing yet. Told to slow down as they head towards the start line for the beginning of their second heat. For some drivers this will be their first race, of course, today. Race winner in Heat 1, Tristan Rennie, is in this race, 14th position on the grid. See how he gets on this time. Will it be as comfortable a drive for Rennie? Because if it is, then we really could see a thoroughly dominant display over the course of the day as the drivers head down towards Billy's for the first time. And into the S's now. A little bit of contact, I think, there between the number 72 and, well, that was Harrison Crook, actually, who started right at the very front but lost a couple of positions there. Didn't have the best first corner. Had to concede a couple of places. And now it is Callum Boyson who leads the way. A very familiar name at the front. Knows his way around this circuit, that's for sure. And knows how to lead a pack as well, especially in this class. He has been very good in the Junior Max over the course of this season. Harry Reynolds is in second with Maximilian Salarski in third. Fourth, Harrison Crook with Joe Linden. Fifth, sixth, Noah Hadley. Seventh, Harry Rowett with Jack Meakin, Brentley Sims and Sam Gornall as your top 10 at the end of the first lap. I suspect there could well be a few changes in that order before the end of this one. Now Tristan Rennie, keep an eye on him as well, of course. Heat 1 winner, up to 11th now. So a pretty decent first lap from him, I think it's fair to say. As Boyson goes across the line with Reynolds very close in tow. 0.07 of a second separated the pair as they went across the line. But at the Sturmey straight, there's no move made by Harry Reynolds, whether that's due to reluctance to make too much of an optimistic move or a tactical choice. Only he will know. He looked close enough to me, I think, to maybe make a late surging dive at the inside of the hairpin there. Try. It does have a new name, doesn't it? But I think most people still refer to it as the hairpin. Top two have really peeled off on the rest of the field, actually. Linden in third place, leading Salarski and Hadley in second. Well, that's third, fourth and fifth. Also actually is turning into almost a seven-way battle as the karts a little bit further behind begin to catch up to those drivers, particularly Maximilian Salarski and Noah Hadley. They look like that's a very hotly contested position at the moment, that fourth place. And Boyson and Reynolds, well, Boyson just unable to shake the number 23 at the moment. The two of them very similar on pace. Reynolds still looking at the rear of that number 35 at the moment. Doesn't want to do anything too drastic, of course. So far, so good for Callum Boyson at least. Still got Reynolds very close behind, but looking like a very good start to this race. Quickest second sector of the race so far as well by our race leader. Harry Reynolds, whether maybe he's just a little bit quicker around the third sector. He was on that previous lap. He was 0.14 of a second quicker in the very short sector 3, which pretty much is just from where the old finish line used to be, between Buttons and the top end, all the way down to the finish line. Certainly a very short sector and a very quick one too. But that may concern Boyson if he had that knowledge that Reynolds is a little quicker around that sector, as he is again this time as well. Joe Linden in third place has done well to escapes Jack Meakin and Maximilian Salarski. Tristan Rennie up to 7th now as well, very much in the fray and in contention for maybe a top 4 spot or so. Still say that 4th place Jack Meakin isn't entirely comfortable in that position at the moment, and he is beginning to pull away slightly from Noah Hadley, and actually set the fastest lap of the race as well, a 34.61 by the number 91 of Meakin, as he looks to consolidate that top 4 spot. Still with that 0.07 gap between them. It feels like that gap has been almost exactly the same for the past 5 or 6 laps now. But still no movement from Harry Reynolds on the race leader. Seems content enough to stay behind Voisin for the middle of this race. Linden now looking fairly comfortable in 3rd, but he's being closed in on by Jack Meakin, who in turn has also pulled away from Noah Hadley. Tristan Rennie is now in 6th position with Sam Gornall, Maximilian Salarski, Harrison Crook and Lucas Hayden rounding out your current top 10. Jack Goring, who did start this race, unfortunately is now in the pit lane, looks to be the first retirement. So close, thoroughly unpredictable as to how that particular battle is going to end up. Oh, and having a little look up the inside now, and yes, as he does finally commit to the manoeuvre and complete the manoeuvre. Well, actually, his voice is claiming that position back. Yeah, Reynolds was able to get ahead, but Voisin then slipping himself back into the lead of the race. So finally, Reynolds did go for it, but Billy's blind. It was Voisin able to reclaim that position, so Callum Voisin back into the lead of the race. The lead was a brief one from a Harry Reynolds point of view. I wonder if that will just invigorate him slightly into being a bit more attacking. Voisin, as soon as he let that position slip, he was straight back in the lead. Lincoln Bailey Arneson overtaking Harry Rowett. Too many changes elsewhere around the circuit. Ashton French actually getting ahead of Jamie Burt. Norwich getting a bit further up the field. See what the gap is this time. Once again, 0.07 over the line on the previous time. Almost identical lap times being set by the leading pair. Across the line goes Linden with Meakin, Hadley, Rennie, with Sam Gornall in 7th, 8th, Maximilian Salarski, 9th, Harrison Crooks with Lucas Hayden 10th, in 11th, Ethan Lomax. It's a pretty decent battle actually going on. Well, 8th backwards, it looks pretty entertaining. Salarski just about holding on from Harrison Crook at the moment, pole sitter, and Salarski started fairly high up the order as well, so these two trying not to slip further down the order. Into the final 30 seconds of racing now. The next lap will be the final one. It's crunch time for Harry Reynolds is in this second heat. As I was focusing on setting up the YouTube stream, wasn't able to pay much attention really to those early races, so I don't know whether these two are on their second or first heat, but certainly looking like an aged battle between the pair as the last lap ball being prepared here, and it is indeed shown to the drivers as Voisin takes a very defensive line of Billy. He's got to be careful not to drift out wide, and he slightly has, but Reynolds connects to the back of him and spins around. A dangerous position on the circuit, but luckily everyone's able to avoid him. And Reynolds facing the wrong way there. Just a bit of contact with the rear of Voisin's kart, and it was enough to carry the number 23 round, facing the wrong way on the exit to Billy's. As I said, lucky that no contact was made with anyone else, but it will be victory for Callum Boyce and checker flag out. And it is the win then, in the end, with a 2.2 second gap back to Joe Linden, who, of course, was initially way out of touch with being second, but that last lap incident promotes him into that place. Jack Meakin in third, fourth goes to Noah Hadley, with Tristan Rennie in fifth in the end. A first and a fifth is very competitive indeed from Rennie, with Sam Cornell in sixth. Seventh does go to Harry Reynolds as well after that dramatic first corner of the last lap. Lucas Hayden in eighth, ninth Maximilian Solarski, and Ethan Lomax rounding out your top 10 of a thoroughly enjoyable second heat for the Junior Max. Here we are then with the Senior Max, their second heat. The karts just entering the circuit now on their first, hopefully, just the one formation lap. Once again, a similar situation to that of the Junior Rotax. Some of these drivers will be their second race, some their first, so that little bit of tyre wear, or that little bit of warming up will benefit each of those two scenarios. I'll have to wait and see. Out of the top end then, and the acceleration has begun. Looks like Ethan Haynes on the front row. Let's see how he gets on into Billy's. Takes a fairly tight line into the entrance, as you often have to from pole, of course, but definitely didn't drift out wide to try and get himself as much speed as possible, defending that position, which is absolutely fair enough. And you're in the lead with a class this quick as well. So many experienced and very fast drivers, as always, around class. To the top end they come then, the leading trio, Haynes, Hall and Barker are the top three at the start of the race. Let's see what it is this time. It's now Haynes, Barker, Hall, so just a swap between those in second and third, but no change at the very front, which is where Ethan Haynes exactly wants to be. A little bit of contact there, I think the number 72 looked like he was facing sideways for a little bit there, just on the S's. Have a read through of the order as they come across the line this time. It certainly looks good for Ethan Haynes at the moment as he builds a slender lead over Louis Barker. Across the line they go, and it is Haynes ahead of Barker with Hall in third. Fourth is Page with Coolan, Yates, Pickard, Taylor Truman, Brown and Hunt as your current top 10. Lots of drivers to keep an eye on as well further down the order. Lewis Halliday, always a very quick driver. He's currently in 15th position, so we're looking to cut his way through. Of course, Sandsbury as well. He is the winner in Heat 1, and he's in 17th place at the moment, so has a lot of karts to cut through if he wants to get a repeat of that result. And the number 30's off. Ethan Haynes from the race lead. Looked like there might have been a bit of contact. I didn't actually see the incident, just saw Haynes' kart off the side of the Sturvey Straight, and yeah, it looks like that is race over for Ethan Haynes. Very unfortunate to see the driver who's in the race lead out of the race, but that kart is firmly retired now. Saw him go off, and luckily there was enough speed killed that he didn't head into that barrier, otherwise that could have been a very nasty accident. And now, of course, that means Elliot Hall is your new race leader with Louis Barker in second place. Is Ben Page going to have a move here? Yes, he is. That's Page at the inside of Louis Barker, so up to second position now. And it looks like he's punched the top few drivers really close together. A very entertaining affair is dangling at the moment. Looks like there's going to be a swap in position there as well as you move into the S's. That's the number 65 of Ryan Taylor Truman, I think, promoting himself up to 5th there. Oh well, how will Louis Barker do in the lead of this race at the moment? I think it was Page actually overtaking Elliot Hall. My apologies, I think I said that it was Page overtaking Barker. It was actually Hall who's fallen to third place at the expense of Ben Page. That's good for Louis Barker, the number 82, leading the way with a 0.9 second advantage as well. 0.3 of a second cut out, or quicker than Josh Poulin on that previous lap. Joshua Poulin up to second place. What has happened here to Ben Page? He's gone across the line. Didn't see what happened to him, but maybe he's out of the running as well. So much we can't even really stay on top of it in this Senior Max second heat, but across the line, this is Louis Barker in the lead here. And then we've got the number 32, Joshua Poulin. He's definitely in second place, and we've got third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So that's Brown, Taylor, Truman, Yates, Paul, and Pickard, all within a second of one another. So what has happened to Ben Page then? As himself and Ethan Haynes find himself watching from the sideline. Well, he's there pulled off, isn't he? The number 90 on the extra foot of the horseshoe. Didn't see that incident either. I don't know if that was a fault with the card, but gets it a little bit sideways. The race leader there, Louis Barker, coming out of the S's. They have just scrubbed a little bit of speed off there, but still has a relatively comfortable lead. Poulin is quicker though in second place, but does also have company from Archie Brown. Sure, he's determined not to lose that position, but that's exactly what he's going to do as Brown dives on the inside at the top end. And now it's Archie Brown in second place. It's side by side together are Joshua Poulin and Ryan Taylor Truman, who has been a little more quietly, but certainly picking himself up and getting himself into those really high positions. Also So they're approaching a back marker here as well. This is the number 25, Tom Marsden, being caught up by the race leaders as Louis Barker continues to lead the way. Actually going into the pits there, unfortunately, Louis Marsden. I think that's the end of the race there, Thomas Marsden, sorry. And Louis Barker leading the way then. How much longer do we have in this race? Just over 2 minutes remain. Still a lot of time left of racing. Quarter of the race still left. With a few retirements. Hasn't necessarily been the cleanest of all Senior Max races, but nonetheless an entertaining affair, which is what we love to see. Sam Stansbury, by the way, he's up to 14th now. He's the winner in Heat 1. I told you to keep an eye as well on Lewis Halliday, who is in 10th now, so picking himself up the order, but so difficult in classes such as these, especially when the front runners are already towards the front of the field. So pitch your way through that field and close the gap to the next driver. It's a challenging task. Louis Barker and Archie Brown are now separated by just 0.17 of a second. Brown looks to try and get himself into the lead of the race for the first time. Taylor Truman in third as he does dive on the inside now. Brown on Barker, but he goes too wide and Barker reclaims that position. That has enabled Taylor Truman to catch right up, but Brown back up the inside at the horseshoe. Surely we'll get it done this time, and going into buttons, he does have the lead of the race. Now Ryan Taylor Truman in third. He's right on the back of Louis Barker now as well, and could Barker lose 2 positions in 2 laps? We're into the final 33 seconds, so I think the next lap is pretty likely to be the last one. We'll have to wait and see, but it is Archie Brown now leading the way, and already has a little bit of a gap actually back to Louis Barker, who'll be determined to try and get himself back into the lead of the race. But Taylor Truman having a look up the inside, and they touch, and you saw that coming. There wasn't really enough of a gap, but Taylor Truman went for it, moved himself up into second place at the expense of Louis Barker. Now Barker's also got company from Daniel Yates in behind. Will Yates fancy himself a go at the top 3 as the last lap board is out. Last lap of racing now with Brown leading the way and surely on his way to will be a pretty memorable victory, I would have thought. Ryan Taylor Truman in second place with Louis Barker and Daniel Yates just in behind. It's not all over behind them as well, as I think it's Hall and Pickard, or maybe Burns having a good squabble there as well. Certainly not all over, as Barker in 4th place. Don't think he's going to drop any more positions, but Daniel Yates has got himself up into the top 3 as Archie Brown seals a very entertaining victory. Ryan Taylor Truman in second place, Daniel Yates in third, and Louis Barker, who dropped off a few positions towards the end of the race there. He will certainly be disappointed with the end of the race, but very, very promising race pace from the number 82. Josh Poulin in 5th, 6th goes to Elliot Hall with Dan Burt 7th, 8th Elliot Pickard, Reese Hurd 9th, and Brandon Haig ends his race in 10th position. But what a last few laps that was. A few drivers who were right at the front as well binned out early doors. Ben Page and Ethan Haynes, 2 of those victims, but Archie Brown claims a thoroughly entertaining victory. One of the races of the day so far, you have to say. Great stuff from the Senior Max. one of the most popular classes that we will see today is the Honda Cadets, and they are out on track for their second heat now. The penultimate heat as well for these drivers, and the first of the day actually, where it is the second of three. Emily Ackett and Freddie Worlock look like they're on the front row, but they are going to go round one more time. I think most of the drivers seem to be aware of that. Not going too slow though to let the rest of the field catch up, mind. They try to get themselves into those grid positions. Fortunately, because I was wrapped up with trying to get the stream to work, didn't actually record who were the front runners in the early cadet race. Here we are then, the start of the race about to get underway now. Can't see any problems with the grid line up this time as we go across the line and get this 8-minute heat underway. Good start there by the left-hand side of the grid, particularly Freddie Worlock getting the better of Emily Ackett even as they went over the timing line. And in the hairpin, there's contact with a few drivers come together, and one of them looks like he's hit the tyre wall, but it doesn't seem like it was too high speed an incident, thankfully. Hopefully those drivers, of course, the priority is that they are unharmed. Well, one cart's away of the two that weren't able to immediately restart, and unfortunately it looks like the other has retired, but thankfully it seems no one is harmed. That can often be a very dangerous place. Right in the braking zone means you are shedding off the speed, thankfully. And yellow flags in that sector, so no overtaking there for at least this lap, as that tyre will need to be repaired. Just so I might try and get that driver back out and running again. Actually, not entirely sure. At the front, it's Charles Green. And Freddie Worlock's dropped off to 4th place now. Across the line we go, and it is Charles Green at the front. Get the refreshed data. There we go. Charles Green, yeah, with Jonathan Piggott in 2nd place. Dalton Haywood in 3rd. Hugh Moulton in 4th, with Freddie Worlock in 5th. 6th, Lucas Howell with Emily Ackett in 7th. 8th, Harrison Whitcomb. 9th, Sam Green Gomez. And Ethan Griffiths in 10th position, who has climbed a couple since that previous lap. So on the storm at the moment, Ethan Griffiths with some impressive early pace. Look at this leading quartet as they go across the line. Nearly nothing to separate Green down to Moulton, with Piggott and Haywood in the middle. And looks like maybe an overtaking opportunity here, just about screamed his way through. Good manoeuvre there by Dalton Haywood on Jonathan Piggott as he climbs up into 2nd place. Now into the horseshoe. And it is Charles Green who leads the way. Moulton and Haywood with Piggott as well. The three who trail immediately behind the race leader. As they approach the timing line once again in 5th and 6th, Lucas Howell and Harrison Whitcomb, both of whom have picked themselves up from lower grid positions. It's nearly 3 abreast going into the S's with the front few, by the way. Often doesn't work going 2 abreast around the S's, but it really did that time. Hugh Moulton and Jonathan Piggott, I think, there were side by side for the entirety of that double corner and managed to get away with it. Impressive driving from the pair of the youngsters there. Was indeed Moulton and Piggott. Moulton eventually picking himself up into 2nd place, and I think Charles Green may have some real trouble here from Hugh Moulton. Keeping on that pressure. Let's see how he gets on over the next couple of laps, especially with Moulton breathing down his neck, doing more than just that actually. A few nudges to the rear bumper of Dalton Haywood actually, who's our race leader now. I didn't realise Charles Green had dropped down to 4th, but there we go. Dalton Haywood our race leader, with Hugh Moulton in second place. So Hayward on that previous lap getting the better of previous race leader Charles Green, and now has some real pressure to deal with from Hugh Moulton, heading towards the top end once again. Moulton all over the back of Hayward, but no opportunity to pass on this occasion. A couple more nudges. The number 51 clearly quicker down this straight. Into the S's once more we go, and Sturley straight as well. For these leading four drivers, a thoroughly watchable battle this at the front of the pack. Then a little bit further back, 5th and 6th, Harrison Whitcomb and Lucas Howell now are those two drivers who sit in the middle of two much more challenging looking conditions as the drivers battle it out just behind them. Freddie Worlock is in 7th, but only a .07 gap back to Amelie Ackett separates him from potentially being 8th, with Sam Green Gomez just dropping out of the top 10 on that previous lap. Jack West climbing to 9th, with Cameron Nelson in 10th position now. No change though in the top 4. Initially looked like they were going to ditch Charles Green, and his pace wasn't quite on the same level, but he has managed to just about cling to the coattails of those drivers ahead, enabling them to not escape too far up the road, as I mentioned numerous times in the past, particularly a windy condition, so not so much today. There's a bit of wind, but in these Cadet karts the toe really is noticeable. Are able to just cling on to those drivers ahead, even if they are slightly quicker, because the straights just benefits the drivers behind so much. Just over 2 minutes remain of this heat, with Dalton Hayward leading the way, with Hugh Moulton in 2nd, Jonathan Piggott 3rd, and Charles Green 4th. It's been that way for a number of laps now. After an initial storm, the calm has arrived for at least a little. But now, having a look on the inside, and we are going to see an overtake here. I believe Hugh Moulton into the race lead for the first time as he gets past Dalton Hayward, and sheds off a lot of speed of Hayward as well, as he tries to make sure he doesn't make contact with either of those drivers. So much so that Hayward actually drops to 4th place. Very clever manoeuvre that by Hugh Moulton as he got himself into the lead, and it really costed Dalton Hayward to concede that position there as well, dropping 3 positions in just one corner in the very opening of the Sturley Straight. That's still enough time to come back from this and try to get himself back into the top 3, or if possible the lead. But Piggott's all over the back of Moulton. It just seems there's no let up. As soon as one driver gets into the lead, the driver behind is quicker. Piggott was closing in on that previous lap, was half a tenth quicker than Moulton. As into the horseshoe they go. In 5th place, Harrison Whitcomb still sitting in that place, and did catch up quite a bit to Hayward on that previous lap, to be fair, 0.35 of a second, but I don't think he's going to make an impact on the top 4, sadly. Maybe just starting a little bit far too down the order. Into the final half a minute of racing now. Hugh Moulton leading the way, reclaiming 2nd place though. Charles Green getting past Jonathan Piggott, and now Piggott's having a real go and trying to get back into 2nd place after just losing that place, and Charles Green now settles into 3rd. Dalton Hayward still in 4th place, and there's just no way of knowing who's quickest out of these drivers. Whoever's in the lead just seems to not be the quickest. It goes very wide actually, Charles Green on that occasion. Gets the very edge of his tyre just on the grass. This is the last lap of the race now. Is anyone going to stop Hugh Moulton, who had peeled away ever so slightly as a result of the 3 squabbling behind him on that previous lap? Got Jonathan Piggott right on his rear bumper, but going into the hairpin, plays it safe. Sticks his car to the inside line, tries to make sure there's not even a crack of an opening. And Piggott, I don't think he's going to find a way through. If he does, it will have to be now. Piggott all over the back of Moulton as Moulton drives defensively, but out of the top end they come. Who's it going to be out of Piggott and Moulton? Also making a charge on the left hand side is Dalton Hayward. Who's it going to be across the line? It is Hugh Moulton, I think, who won it. No, it was Dalton Hayward. Dalton Hayward with the victory. Hugh Moulton in second and Jonathan Piggott in third. No way of knowing who actually won that race. It was definitely between Hayward and Moulton. I really thought Moulton had just about done it, but Dalton Hayward with a fantastic exit out of the top end had the run down the pit straight and was able to claim victory by 0.02 of a second ahead of Hugh Moulton, and then a further 0.05 of a second back to Jonathan Piggott. But how often do you see that? Hayward, Moulton and Piggott, the top three, finishing within 0.07 of a second, and Charles Green only 0.15 of a second there as well. So only 0.2 separating the top four. Very entertaining tussle between those four, and I hope that they all get lumped together on the grid as well for a either the next heat or the final, because if that race was anything to go by, then the stakes are even higher. We can expect to see more great racing, hopefully. Another very entertaining race, this time thanks to the Honda Cadets. Next up are the 177s as Cole Edwards seeks a second consecutive victory. Going to have a lot of work to do this time though, Cole Edwards, to claim another victory. He starts almost right at the back in 9th position. It's Sam Winter who starts on the front row alongside, I think that's Alfie Williams, is it? Perhaps Reece Llewellyn. It is indeed Reece Llewellyn, but a very heavy impact straight away as one of the carts heads straight into the tyre wall on the outside of this pit straight here. Sounded particularly nasty and looked even worse. That's going to be a retirement. Dearie me, a very high speed impact there as contact between two drivers resulted in that. Yellow flags are going to be out, but I think the driver's okay, thankfully. My goodness, not a nice collision to see as the number 67 collides with the tyre wall. Ayrton Anderson it was in that kart. Thankfully looks to be okay. Yellow flags will be out in that sector though, but the marshals, quick and efficient as they always are at the raceway, and after just a couple of laps that tyre wall is sorted out. Here is the number 10 of Sam Winter, and he just sets the fastest lap of the race as well, a 35.39. It means he's now got over half a second back to Reece Llewellyn, with Dan Milner and Ian Brown in 3rd and 4th, Alfie Williams 5th, 6th Ian Brownfield, and Cole Edwards in 7th, 8th Chris Skivier, with Ben Johnson in 9th. As always, if you have any announcements or corrections that you want to make to my commentary, then please do come up to the TV just above timing. On to the Sturmey straight we go, with Sam Winter leading the way. Has a very decent gap back to Reece Llewellyn now, 0.81 of a second. Llewellyn, who started alongside the number 10. Daniel Milner in 3rd place, but battling for that second position with Reece Llewellyn. Looks like a fairly tight battle going on in behind there, as well as one of the cars is just getting swamped heading into the S's. I think it was the number 23 actually of Ian Brown, who went all the way from 4th down to 8th, I think. Maybe 4th to 7th, but didn't have the best exit out of Billy's and was thoroughly punished for it. When there's that many carts behind you, it's so easy for a lot of them to just swamp their way through, just stay bumper to bumper with the cart in front and follow their way through. There's nothing that the defending cart can do about that one. Very entertaining looking three-way battle goes on for 4th place. Just on top of that is the E plate. That is Cole Edwards, who finds his way through yet another position. At the moment, looking good for Sam Winter though. 1.3 seconds ahead of Reece Llewellyn now. He's really pumping out some very impressive lap times. 35.28 set by Winter there. The fastest still remains the 35.22, but only be 600ths off that. Shows a remarkable level of consistency as well. A 35.23 now, so just 100th slower. Now Daniel Milner up to 2nd place. He was tussling with Reece Llewellyn. Now he's found his way through, but he is 0.3 seconds a lap slower, or was on that previous lap at least, although of course he would have been tasked with overtaking. But the gap 1.66 seconds. Is it already becoming a gap too large for the quicker drivers in the middle of the field? Second place, Dan Milner then. Looks fairly assured in that position at the moment, having overtaken Reece Llewellyn a couple of laps ago. Cole Edwards and Ian Brownfield are the drivers tucked in behind, and not too far behind either, but the number 22 has dropped a couple more positions there. Reece Llewellyn, not the best lap. That previous one is overtaken by a couple of drivers, Brownfield and Edwards, and Brownfield overtaking Edwards in that fray as well means that the number 46 is now up into 3rd place. There is a little bit of a gap actually then back to Llewellyn, with Alfie Williams in 6th. 7th place Ian Brown, with Chris Skivier in 8th. 9th Ben Johnson. Off the line go the drivers, the 9 that remain. Was initially a 10 kart grid, but an early nasty accident with Ayrton Anderson put him out of the race in the opening few seconds. 2nd, 3rd and 4th are Milner, Brownfield and Edwards. Brownfield all over the back of Milner actually, certainly looks the quicker of the pair. Fastest lap now does belong to Ian Brownfield, who continues to pick his way through the order as well. A 34.76 actually, that is lightning quick, and a lot quicker than race leader Sam Winter as well. He gets past Dan Milner in 2nd place, and with the fastest lap as well, was 0.2 of a second quicker than Winter on that last lap. I just don't know whether he's going to have enough time to do anything about Winter's race lead, because only 1 minute 40 left on the clock. And he's got a lot of a gap to really close down. You can see the S's once more. Ever so slight bit of understeer there from Sam Winter. Edwards remains in 4th, winner of Heat 1. Certainly looks like we're going to have a new winner here, and it's very likely to be Sam Winter, but Brownfield, if he continues putting in laps like this, is going to be right on the back of Sam Winter in not very much time. Now the gap stands just past a second, as 0.36 of a second quicker on that previous lap. I don't know where Brownfield's pace seems to have suddenly come from. It's like the first and second part of this race were entirely different. He was shifting through the field and making considerable progress, but pace to this extent, really good work from the number 46 so far. Closing in a lot on the number 10 of Sam Winter, who probably a few laps ago thought there was no way that he was going to concede this race win, but there's a distinct possibility of that very event happening now as Bradfield has a look up the inside and is able to pass Winter. Winter for the first time in Heat 2 isn't the race leader anymore, and he has a look up the inside and has a little nudge as well. There's contact between the two. He's back into the lead, but I have a very strong suspicion that he will incur the nose cone penalty there, Sam Winter. They just looked too heavy an impact on the rear of the number 48's kart for me, and I think he will get penalised for that, and therefore, even if he does finish first on the track, it's, I think, pretty unlikely he's going to be able to stick with that position. Branfield, despite that bit of contact pushing him out wide, is in the lead of the race once again anyway, so it's actually also enabled Milner and Edwards to catch up right to the back of Sam Winter, giving even more problems to the number 10. Last lap of the race it is now as Ian Branfield comes across the line, takes the win ahead of Winter with Milner and Edwards in third and fourth. Alfie Williams 5th, 6th Reece Llewellyn with Chris Givier 7th, 8th Ben Johnson and 9th Ian Brown, after Ian Branfield found a huge amount of pace and was able to win this heat. time now then for yet another very sizable grid, and it is the Minimax who take to the track for the second time today. It was Linden who won the race earlier on, Harry Linden, in the GP kart, and he starts 17th this time, so certainly has a lot of work to try and get himself into the front few positions again. But we are underway then with this yet another 8-minute heat as the Minimax race gets underway. Right at the front were Billy Edgecombe and Finn Smith off the front row as they squeeze their way around the opening few corners and back onto the back straight, flicking into the hairpin once again, and each of these drivers doing well to avoid contact, I say, as there is contact and the driver smashes into the side of that marshal post there. Luckily the barriers were able to nullify the impact somewhat, but that number 81 looks to be out of the running. And let's see who that was. It's Daniel Tribe who is out of the running there. My goodness, that was a horrible to watch incident. Another high speed one that nothing to do with the fault of the driver, but just a bit of contact which led him to smash into the side of that marshal post there. And the flag's waving at the horseshoe. Seems the young man is okay, if a little shook up. Very understandable given the circumstances. Seems to be okay though. Which is very good to see. Number 19 of Finn Smith is leading this race with Billy Edgecombe and Braden Hill as your current top three. Not too much has changed really with the order of the top few drivers. Across the line we go with Finn Smith, who is consistently one of the quickest drivers around this circuit. Each time he appears at Clay Pigeon Raceway, you have to say you expect him to be within the top few positions, and a fastest lap and the current race lead certainly puts further evidence towards that cause. As also there was a little bit of contact between a few of the drivers in the middle of the pack at the hairpin there, but no doing. Out of the top end, and it is Smith across the line with Aaron Full in second place, Billy Edgecombe in third, fourth with Ben Crossley, Stephen Duncan in fifth, sixth Braden Hill with William Rea in seventh, eighth Bobby Rosier with Benjamin Bartlett ninth, and Harry Linden up to 10th now. So of course winner of heat one, he'll be looking to follow that up with another positive result as he tries to claim pole position later on. Into the top 10 is decent progress, but will certainly want to climb a few more positions by the end of this race. Still got over half of the race to go. Has a look up the inside there. Well, I'm not sure which kart it was actually. I think it may have been Ben Crossley, with number 56, who's now up into second place. It was on Aaron Full. Second, third, fourth and fifth looks to be an enticing battle then, as Full, Crossley, Edgecombe and Duncan look to battle it out to be the driver closest to Finn Smith. He's continuing to pull away. 1.4 seconds his margin, now 1.46, so it was just over 1.4 on the previous lap. Aaron Full though, has been overtaken by Crossley on that previous lap, as I mentioned. Has a look to the right, has a look to the left, no way through there for Stephen Duncan, who's desperate to try and get past Billy Edgecombe and get himself into the top four, which now he does. Goes ever so slightly wide Billy Edgecombe, and that enables Duncan to get himself into fourth place and pass the ever so slight mistake that Billy Edgecombe made, and he was punished for. Andrew Douglas up into the top 10 now, as well as he and Harrison Crowther overtake Benjamin Bartlett. overtakes a little bit further down the field as well. We can be able to report those to you as the drivers head over the line once again to start their 8th lap of the race now. Ben Crossley takes a 10th out of the lead of Finn Smith, still 1.35 seconds separating them, but there is some good progress by Ben Crossley, who also sets the fastest lap of the race, a 35.53. Best effort by Finn Smith. His personal best is a 35.64. Fastest of the race, middle sector for Harry Linden then, as he continues to mark his territory around the circuit. In what form he is in, Harry Linden, who's now climbed to 6th as well. Definitely going to be one to watch, and this race another one to solidify the cause of him getting a pole position for the final. Each of these 3 heats effectively qualifying round, of course. An amount of championship points are given out per race. I think it's 30 for the race winner, and then 29 for second, 28 for third, and so on and so forth. In the final, the mass bulk of championship points is being given out. That's what all the drivers are really fighting for the grid positions for those races. Into the final couple of minutes now, and Ben Crossley has 1.33 seconds to close in on by the end of this race. I just don't think he's going to be able to in the remaining time. He was half a tenth quicker in the previous lap, but he's going to need to be a whole lot more than half a tenth better on pace to close in on Finn Smith before the end of this one. Smith, of course, started on the front row, and hasn't left that area since. Crossley had a bit more work to do, but nonetheless, for Finn Smith to control this race and to keep that gap at a very sustainable distance takes a lot of talent in itself. Harry Linden, by the way, up to 5th now. Billy Edgecombe, after losing that position to Aaron Full, drifted back a little bit. He's now battling with Bobby Rosier and William Rea. Making so much progress now, as you can understand, with the gaps being so big and with the quickest drivers at the front. Harry Linden, he may have found his final result finish. The only position that doesn't really look totally resolved within the top 5 is 3rd, to be honest, to Stephen Duncan and Aaron Full. Full closing in on Stephen Duncan, who overtook Billy Edgecombe a few laps ago, of course, which led to the number 20 just dropping out of the top 4. And now Aaron Full right there. He wants a space in the top 3. We head on to the back straight once again. There's a little look Aaron Full, but no way through on that occasion. Next lap will be the final one as well. And it's going to be most notably a 5th place for Harry Linden as he looks to solidify his grasp on pole position in Junior Max. Sorry, the Mini-Max final will be race number 29, so fairly late in the day for these young drivers. Finn Smith cruising his way to a thoroughly dominant display and to cap off a very decent race with victory. Might have been closing in slightly towards the end there, Ben Crossley, but nothing he could do about the insurmountable gap that Finn Smith had created for himself. It is going to be victory for the number 19 as he takes the checkered flag in the end, just over a second ahead of Ben Crossley, with Stephen Duncan in 3rd, 4th Aaron Full, with Harry Linden 5th, 6th Bobby Rosier, with Billy Edgecombe, Andrew Douglas, William Rea and Harrison Crowther rounding out your top 10 of the Mini-Max second heat. Next up, it's the Senior Blues for their second heat. Once again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to record who won earlier on, but we know a few of these drivers who are very familiar with the circuit. These are going to be on the front row. We'll say that very shortly. Nigel Vickery on pole alongside Michael Bell, with Dave Watts and David Waldron on row 2, Jeff Webster and Richard Puddle row 3. A pretty decent sized grid for the Formula Blues. 17 drivers is certainly a very respectable number. Some good racing in there. Let's hope that we see just that as Vickery takes it away with Michael Bell on his outside. Oh, massive incident there. There's lots of karts involved, few coming together, and it gives a huge gap to the front three before even the first corner is completed. I think only one is a victim that is therefore out of the running. I think everyone else just about gets away with it, and it's dispersed the crowd very ferociously. And right at the start of the race, it looks like that is a pretty efficient way to create a lot of gaps early on and to, well, perhaps help a lot of the drivers who started further down the order to claim very decent positions in the area where they really wouldn't have expected to do so. Yellow flags waving for that first sector, but it's definitely a retirement there for Anthony Cleal, unfortunately. The number one, always battling towards the front, Anthony Cleal. It's his local circuit. That's unfortunately, looks like he will be not finishing this one. Just retiring that car. Michael Bell ahead of Dave Watts is your top two, with Nigel Vickery in third, Ron Schoen in fourth, and Sarita Schoen in fifth place. Don't know whether there may have been a illegal overtake somewhere in that sector, not entirely sure. Hope not for each of the drivers or overtaking driver in question. Michael Bell and Dave Watts absolutely side by side as they go across the line. Looks already as though it's going to be one of these two drivers for the victory in a mesmerising first corner. And since that has happened, really, the rest of the field just trying to figure out where they belong, where each of their paces puts them, at least on paper. Who is the quickest driver on the circuit? Well, fastest lap belongs to race leader Michael Bell. 37.28 set, but 37.29 by Dave Watts. Very closely rivals that of the number 5 race leader. Third and fourth, Nigel Vickery and Ron Schoen. It's actually Sarita Schoen, my apologies, who just overtook the number 14. Two O'Neills in 10th and 11th. They'll be looking to try and pick themselves further up the order, as well as the number 3 has a go up the inside, and Dave Watts with that manoeuvre completed, but at Buttons just about cuts ahead in time. Michael Bell looks like he's going to reclaim that place once again, though, constantly swapping places as they come out of the top end, these top two, and across the line they go. It is indeed Dave Watts, who lost out on the position, then gained it back, and then lost out again, but then got it back, and now back in the lead of the race. Michael Bell has settled for second, at least for now. And into the S's goes the rest of the pack now. Third place, Sarita Schoen leading by example in that particular section of the pack, with the Nigel Vickery in fourth, fifth Ron Cho, David Waldron sixth, seventh Robin Stoddart-Stones, Stuart Gray eighth, Russell O'Neill ninth, and Paul Alexander rounding out the top 10 after 5 laps completed. Now on to our 6th. Stuart Gray getting the better of David Waldron and Robin Stoddart-Stones in that previous lap, so Gray in the number 15 is up to 6th now. The top two. Just look at the difference between them and Sarita shown in terms of the gap on the track. 6.8 seconds separating Bell from Shown, and race leader Watts is over 7 seconds adrift of Sarita Shown's car. So a fairly insurmountable gap it looks, as the number 17 or 12, I think, so David Good or Paul Alexander. My eyesight doesn't really help me in this scenario, but I think it is David Good. Is going to be yet another retirement, and just pulled off to the side there just before the horseshoe, and looks to be out of the running. The Blues driver Paul Shears is the only novice in this class. He's currently sitting in 14th place, so ahead of one other driver, Jeff Webster, with number 71, who is currently in last on the track. Just under 3 minutes left to race. Sarita Shown over 7.7 seconds adrift of Michael Bell now, who is being overtaken by Dave Watts after they had a very quick battle. As he's been overtaken, he just hasn't been able to match the pace of the number 3. And Dave Watts now setting a 36.88. Let's see what he can make on this next lap, but it looks pretty good for the race leader. He has a gap now of over a second to try and improve. 37.01. It's not quite as quick as his personal best, but still a very fast lap time by the race leader. Michael Bell's personal best to 37.23, not really that close to the effort that Watts was able to put out there, so just not quite as quick on the track, simple as, for Michael Bell. Dave Watts leading the way. Russell O'Neill overtaking Ron Schoen in a change for 6th on that previous lap. Across the line goes 5th to 10th. They're very close together. Russell O'Neill, Ron Schoen, Nigel Vickery, David Waldron, Robin Stoddart Stones and Paul Alexander. Those 6 karts separated, well, they were separated by very little, but as I say that, seem to really be making full use of the commentator's curse today, as a couple of them come together, and it's going to be yet another retirement, this time for, I believe that's David Waldron's kart on the side of Sturmey's, and pretty much in exactly the same place where Ethan Haynes had to retire on the previous heat for his class. And well, that is yet another retirement, and we'll have to wait on the sidelines. Joins David Good and Anthony Fleel, watching from the wrong side of the circuit. Sarita Shown and Stuart Gray having a good fight as well, as they battle it out for 3rd place. But it looks very comfortable for Dave Watts in the final 20 seconds or so. Just needs to maintain that pace, and he shouldn't have any problem bringing home that victory. Ron Schoen, Russell O'Neill, Nigel Vickery, Robin Stoddart Stones and Paul Alexander haven't been deterred though by the retirement of David Waldron, as they continue to battle it out, get themselves in as high a position as possible. Not sure what the standings will look like after this race, but certainly after heat 3 we should have a fairly good idea who's going to be the front runners in the final. Indeed, who will have the better grid positions as well. Across the line goes Stuart Gray, just opening up a bit of a gap between himself and Sarita Shown now. Perhaps a 3rd place is a bit more of a realistic position for Gray to finish in than Shown. He's going to be, in the end, it looks a fairly comfortable gap, but really had to earn it. Dave Watts, as the number 3, takes the checkered flag and beats Michael Bell to the line by 2.15 seconds in the end. Didn't realise the gap was that big, to be honest. Really has put him to the sword in terms of overall pace. Well, losing a bit of time as well. He began to get complacent towards the end, but Stuart Gray in 3rd, 4th Sarita Shown, Ron Jones 5th, 6th Russell O'Neill, Nigel Vickery 7th, 8th Robin Stoddard Stones and Paul Alexander and Richard Puddle as your top 10 in your provisional order, at least. Of course, each of these heats do have their provisional order at the end of it. Any of the officials are allowed to reprimand the drivers. They're all weighed, of course. The front runners make sure they're not over the weight, or not under the weight limit. But a few retirements. See how that affects the shape of things later on. And the Formula Blues, they've got their final in race number 24 is actually the first final of the day later on this afternoon. Here we are then, it is the Dart Motorsport second heat. As I mentioned earlier on, I believe it is their debut at Clay Pigeon Raceway. I remember seeing Dart Motorsport here before, so good to get a new class in as always. Let's hope for some good stuff from these 8 drivers, 2 of which are novices, and we'll start off the back of course in each of the races, but the other 6 will be tussled up in the grids. A running start as we've come to expect from each of the classes at Clay. Not very many that do have the standing starts these days. I think maybe, is it the P90s or a class like that that came to Play a couple of years ago that they had the standing start. Not many follow suit, but heading around the hairpin and into the horseshoe now, the race leaders. Number 13 having a good start there, Nick Williams, who has got himself into an early race lead. Let's see out of the top end who has the better run. It looks like it might have actually been the second place driver. 3 from Chris Williams, appropriately noisy, these karts. Good to hear a nice low bellow from the engine of these pro karts. Down the Sternly straight, there you go, and it's going to be another loss of position, is it, for Chris Williams, as Lewis Nurse has to go up the inside. Nurse, who finished second in Heat 1, having a look around the outside now of the horseshoe. Fairly unorthodox, but he will have the inside line for buttons. So very intelligently played by Lewis Nurse there as he gets himself into second place and out of the top end. He will be chasing down the number 13 as well as they head across the line. The top four just pulled away ever so slightly from 5th place into the S's now, and Nick Williams ahead of Lewis Nurse. Nurse being in second, a familiar story. This time, will he be able to get himself into the race lead for what I think would be the first time today? To the top end they go. Not a cloud in the sky over that area of the circuit actually. It's really lovely sunny day out there. Each of these drivers will benefit from that from the pace, but I thought that he took a bit too of a narrow line there, Nick Williams going into Billy's, and he does drift out wide, and as a result Lewis Nurse is able to punish him. Heading into the hairpin now, and I'm not sure whether Williams intended to do that, but just took Billy's. Maybe he didn't realise that he had a bit more of a gap than he did, but very defensive line going in there, drifts out wide, couldn't get enough on the brakes, and as a result Lewis Nurse is promoted up into the lead of the race. Out of the top end come each of these drivers now, as Williams does really very much have some defending to do now from Archie Sherwood, who's in 3rd position but looking to get into 2nd and match his plate on the kart. Well, keep an eye on Chris Williams as well. He might be in 8th place, but a 37.13 means that he has the fastest lap of the race back there. May well be picking his way up through some of the order yet. None of the drivers have truly escaped from the rest of the pack yet. Yes, you can make an argument for Lewis Nurse, but not totally out of touch yet if one of the drivers behind is able to find a little bit of pace from somewhere. Still a decent gap for now though. I'm sure Lewis Nurse will be content with how the last couple of laps have gone. Nick Williams in 2nd, still defending from Archie Sherwood now, who can't quite find an answer to the tactics deployed by Williams at this moment in time. See how the pace differs as well as they cross the line. Across the line there you go, is a 37.49 for Nick Williams and a 37.55, so a little bit slower by Archie Sherwood. Well, that was definitely an overtake in there somewhere, and it is the number 13 who's dropped a couple more positions there. Nick Williams conceding to Archie Sherwood and Charlie French on the same corner. That means pushed down to 4th. And Archie Sherwood now the closest competitor to Lewis Nurse, and if my memory serves me right, it was Archie Sherwood who came out victorious in E1, so maybe if he does have the slightly more superior pace, then Lewis Nurse is certainly far from guaranteed this victory, but last lap of the race does belong with the number 44, which tends to emit a fairly ominous sign. 36.97 by Chris Williams is still the 2nd quickest lap of the race. That does still sit in 8th place. Out to the top end once more, and Lewis Nurse heads across the line, sets a 36.91. 36.81 is set by Archie Sherwood though, so that gap now may be on the close, but just under 3 minutes left to go. Lewis Nurse at the moment just needs to nurse this lead home, pardon the pun. Round the horseshoe goes the number 44 and race leader. Out of the top end, once again heading towards the start finish line. The top 3 seem fairly rooted in those positions, and Nick Williams is struggling a bit for pace. Reeve and Williams have all been able to catch up. That's James Reeve and Jack Reeve who are racing together out on the circuit. So 2 J Reeves for me to try and tussle with. may have dropped back Nick Williams, but no early signs he's going to immediately concede a position to maybe James Reeve, who is his closest competitor out there. Joseph Fitch and Jack Reeve, the two novices, are really involved in this group. Despite that superior pace by Chris Williams, at the moment he's just unable to make that count. And dives up the inside now. That is, well, let's see who it is. The number 88. That's Joseph Fitch on Nick Williams, up into 4th place. So once again on for another top 4 finish. Impressive driving so far from the novices. Chris Williams just unable to get his way further up the order. I really thought that it was going to be somewhat of a comeback result after an initial burst of pace in the early stages when he was so far behind, had a lot of pace, and now doesn't have the positions gained to really back that up. In the number 3, the blue kart in 8th position. Is he going to have a look now at the hairpin? Can't find a way through there as Archie Sherwood looks to close that gap further on Lewis Nurse. He was 0.4 seconds on that previous lap. That's a huge amount of time. I don't think he is going to have enough time because now we're approaching our final 30 seconds of the race. Nick Williams dropping all the way to the back then. I think he may have some problems with that kart. Dropping all the way back there with that pace that he had earlier on seems to have left him, and I think there may be a few setup adjustments made after this heat. Across the line we go then to begin the last lap of the race. Lewis Nurse or Archie Sherwood? Well, it's fairly likely it's going to be Nurse. Sherwood has been quicker over the past few laps. What's far less certain and more up for grabs is that 4th, 5th, 6th tussle. Who is it? 5th, 6th, 7th tussle. Actually, I think Joseph Fitch has done a really good job of pulling away from the rest of the pack. I don't think there are going to be any position changes on this final lap as Chris Williams still tries to seek away past Jack Reeve to no avail, but across the line we go, and it is Lewis Nurse who takes his first victory of the day. Archie Sherwood in 2nd place in number 2, with Charlie French 3rd. 4th goes to Joseph Fitch, another impressive race from him, with James Reeve in 5th, 6th Jack Reeve, Chris Williams in 7th, and Nick Williams in 8th position, but really seems to be struggling for pace towards the end there. That's the end of the rounds of second heat. Now, on to the thirds. Next up is Junior Rotax. Then with the Junior Max, it's their 3rd heat, not their final heat though. That'll be coming up in race number 22, a little bit further on this afternoon. The grid is as follows: for the Junior Max as they tamely make their way around the horseshoe for now. It's Sawyer who starts alongside Jordan Morris on the front row, with Toby Wells and Sam Gornall on row 2. Those will be the leading 4 heading down towards Billy's for the first time. I'm joined in the commentary box for this race by Matchy Mera, who, well, welcome to the commentary box once again. I'm told you're fairly familiar with commentary at this point, so glad to have you up here.
Yeah, absolutely. As the race has started now, we have just gone around. It's not a false start, we've all gone through. As Jordan Morris is leading coming out of the S's, with Dan Sawyer dropping back there slightly, as well as that Sam Gornall up to 3rd position, I believe. Yep, he's got that down. No, down to 2nd and 3rd. He's having a look at 2nd, and he's through. So Dan Sawyer there, a bit losing time on the first lap. He should have defended that corner, in my opinion. He is pushing Sam along though, but already a big gap.
Yeah, and a very early, pretty big gap really for the number 17 of Jordan Morris, who's managed to get himself a very comfortable race lead very early doors, but an exciting first lap, particularly for Sam Gornall, who has also managed to escape from the main rest of the pack, who are all bumper to bumper heading down Sturmey's, but the top 3 with a bit of a getaway in the early stages there.
Yep, absolutely. They've benefited from their high stern positions. There's something, I mean, they're very wide. It's Jamie Burt there, as he has a look into the horseshoe. Couldn't quite get it done there, but a good try nonetheless, but he keeps his position. But absolutely, they've really benefited from their high starting positions to pull away from the field.
Jordan Morris then in the race lead. It was Tristan Rennie who won this race earlier on. Let's just see as they head onto the Sturmey straight who looks quickest out of those 2 in 2nd and 3rd, Sam Gornall and Daniel Sawyer. Well, Gornall in that position now, and on that previous lap actually it was Sawyer ever so slightly slower, so Gornall perhaps on the hunt to try and catch up Jordan Morris, but at the moment Morris the quickest driver out there. Is there any stopping him even this early, Matchy?
It's really good. You can quite clearly see he wants to pull out an early gap at this early stage. Maybe the cart's up for an early part of the race, maybe he'll drop back slightly towards the end, so we have to look out for that. As the rest of the midfield very tightly bunched up, as they continue on through the S's, as we see now coming through. But everything can change in the blink of an eye here.
Yeah, from 7th place pretty much onwards for almost the entirety of the field, there's almost nothing separating them. As a bit of defensive driving there by, I think that's Louis Ball in 7th position, just trying to make sure he doesn't concede any places at the horseshoe there. But look at this from Jordan Morris, thoroughly dominant display so far, as you can see a few more gaps forming now around the track. Harry Reynolds and Jake Shurey in 5th and 6th, that's a swap of positions, but they're now also pulling away from the rest of the pack. And in 2nd and 3rd is Daniel Sawyer beginning to close in on Sam Gornall. Well, that gap looks to be maintained for now, but that's a good fight as well going on between those 3 drivers a little bit further down the order in, yeah, that is 7th place, so Louis Ball trying to defend that position at the moment.
Someone spun around, there's a 77 cart, there's a bit of contact there with Dart Motorsport, I believe, but he's on his way again, no damage from all I can see. But Jack Meakin really getting stuck in this battle here, really struggling to get past Jamie Burt. I think he's having a go now with the Billies. The cold strip is in the way, so I quite can't see, but he is through. Really losing a lot of time, Jack Meakin, through that squabble he had.
Yeah, and as you said, unfortunate for the kart who spun around there. Who is that actually? Didn't quite catch who it was. It's Travis Chapman, so he concedes 14 positions as a result of that spin, but that midfield is so bunched together, and there's another spin in exactly the same place. I'm pretty sure his kart was actually on almost the exact same position on the circuit as Chapman's was on the previous lap, so yet another victim of that midfield squabble which is raging on.
Absolutely, you can see not a happy camper at all, pounding the steering wheel in his frustration of what is going on in that midfield squabble. They're starting to pull away here a bit, the midfield, starting to stretch out, but still all to play for in the lower positions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not the final race for some of the drivers. Some of them it will be their last chance to make an impression on their grid positions for the final. Jordan Morris will be hoping the race can end now as we are in the final half of this race. Battle for 2nd looks to have tamed somewhat, but for 4th, Lincoln Bailey Arneson and Harry Reynolds looks as though that could potentially have a difference in positions sorted fairly soon as they begin to catch up actually to 3rd placed Daniel Sawyer. I don't know whether we're going to see a 3-way or maybe even 4-way battle there pretty soon.
Absolutely, you can see it's all stretched up to 2 kart lengths between these drivers. 3 kart lengths if you include Sam Gornall in that comment. I mean, they're not really, they just want to catch up so far. No really thought of a move is coming yet, but they're just trying to catch up. I mean, Jordan Morris has absolutely ran away so far. I think he should have this in the bag.
Interesting though, Harry Reynolds has the fastest lap of the race, a 34.74 in comparison to race leaders Morris is 34.92, so that's actually a fair amount quicker, 0.2 quicker. What do you think that says about the performance of Harry Reynolds?
Absolutely, I can see Harry Reynolds trying around the outside going to the horseshoe. Not often you see that move pay off, but he's stayed in position behind Dan Sawyer. He's got a good run now out of the last corner. He should have invincibility, Dan Sawyer, and is he going to do it? Yes, he is, nice and simple there. No contact or anything. Good move by Harry.
Yeah, up into third now. He's just slowly but surely picking his way through the field. I don't know where he started on the grid, but I don't think he was in the top 10, so it's been a thoroughly impressive drive from Reynolds as we approach the final couple minutes now. Third, fourth and fifth still very close together as Harry Reynolds looks to pull away from Sawyer and Bailey Arneson, who looks to try and close up, but this midfield's still very packed. A position change there much further down the order as the number 97 goes through. Ethan Lomax on Callum Davies there as an overtake. Very high position as well for Evie Poulin, who's up into 11th place now. What do you make of that one?
Yeah, that's very good. She's quite experienced for a novice. I've seen her. She travels with the Pigeon Motorsport awning all the time, along with his brother, Josh Poulin, who races in seniors. So she's just getting loads of experience under her belt, and it's quite clearly paying off.
Yeah, and 11th place in a grid this large as well. But look at that, almost 4 abreast, you'd say, at the horseshoe there. Brilliant battle going on. It will enable a couple of drivers to catch up as well. I didn't see who actually was able to get through any positions that changed, but my goodness, what a squabble.
Yes, absolutely. It was the 83 of Matthew Lambert absolutely locking up, trying to overtake the novice of Poulin there. He's gone through, but that was definitely not a clean moment.
No, it could have been a bit messier as they head into the hairpin as well. You never really know how it's going to go when there's that close heading into the hairpin. Into the horseshoe now, the sweeping left-hander, and Evie Poulin, I think, is actually losing a couple of positions here, but still putting up a great fight. At the front, Jordan Morris has no such trouble, so now leads by over 2.5 seconds.
Yes, absolutely. He's just maintaining his gap with Jordan. He just needs to cruise home now. He's only got 40 seconds left on the clock, so he's just got to make it sure it's nice and clean. There's a change there. Dan Sawyer getting passed by the 25 cart there, losing another position.
Yeah, Lincoln Bailey Arneson then. That was, I think actually, Bailey Arneson was overtaken by Sawyer earlier on in the race, so now just reclaiming that place back up into 4th place, Lincoln Bailey Arneson, but losing a bit of time on the carts ahead. Harry Reynolds.
And he's lost another position. Meekin's got past Dan Sawyer. An absolute disaster for Dan Sawyer, losing places and over fifth in these closing moments.
Yeah, less than 10 seconds on the clock, and Daniel Sawyer losing a couple of positions in less than a couple of laps. Not ideal. But Harry Reynolds and Sam Gornall certainly one to watch as well. That's certainly not over yet. Harry Reynolds doing a good job of closing that gap and now putting Gornall under pressure as the last lap board is shown.
Absolutely, he's having a look. Oh, Gornall's defending. There's a bit of touch there between the teammates, but they're still on the track, thankfully. So Adrian Coles will be calm so far about this. But Sam Gornall just pulled away a bit here, and I think he's got that in the bag.
Yeah, Reynolds, well, had a little look, didn't he? And it went a bit defensive, as we often see at Billy's. Very defensive driving, but so easy, isn't it, to just drift out wide when you are defending like that?
Absolutely. We can see that Meekin's actually gone past the 25 part of Lincoln there. He's managed to make it stick in Billy's on the previous lap, which is quite good, considering that it is the end of the race.
And then the victory is sealed for Jordan Morris. Very close between Gornall and Reynolds across the line. The teammates, as you mentioned, Matcha, but just 0.08 of a second separating those two, but Morris able to win by 3.4 seconds in the end. It's across the line as well, really tight between those 4 drivers from Louis Ball onwards. That's 11th place for him, and then Evie Poulin in 12th. 13th goes to Maximilian Solarski, with Daniel Sebula in 14th place.
Absolutely notable mention for Jamie Burt, who managed to finish 8th for his first weekend in juniors this weekend after NKRA last week. So very impressive.
Yeah, great drive from Jamie Burt then. One to watch in the Junior Max. Next up will be the Senior Rotax for their third heat. And, well, who would you say was the most notable performer on that one, minus the obvious of Jordan Morris there, Matcha?
Well, I think Harry Reynolds there had a very good run to climb up the field. I mean, it was quite clear that advantage of starting out at the front of the field played into Gornall's hands as well as Morris's. If they started all bunched up, I don't think there's any doubt about who would have won that race, because it would have been Reynolds, in my opinion, with his sheer pace advantage over the others.
Yeah, it was a brilliant pace advantage, but actually quickest lap did go to Jack Meakin in the end, 34.71, so 200ths quicker than the best effort by Harry Reynolds there. So well, it'll be very interesting to see if these drivers are all together in Heat 3, but certainly will be in the final, just how they get on.
Absolutely, as now the Senior Max heads out on circuit with Teddy Clinton, I can see, starting on the front row, so definitely one to watch for this race win. But I'm not too sure if he's starting on pole position or second. I believe it's second position, judging how he's come out of the pits. But we have to wait and see, because that second side of the grid is quite dangerous.
Yes, Tin and Rourke starting on pole, Amelia Vincent alongside with Clinton and Allison on row 2. So it's starting just behind pole sitter Tin and Rourke. All about how good a run they can get heading down towards Billy's blind. There's so many drivers in Senior Max who you can see taking the win. So many very quick drivers, some of which aren't even involved. The A final in this will be a delight, I'm sure, but heading down to Billy's now, really bunched up that pack as they come out of the first corner and onto the Sturmey Straight for the first time.
Absolutely, they're all through so far. Ryan Taylor Truman getting a bit of a bump there, I can see. First race so far where nobody's gone off in the S's on the first lap in seniors, so that's an improvement. But they're all making their way around into the horseshoe, like out of the barrel of a gun, in formation, one by one.
Oh, there's contact here, and there's a driver who heads backwards into the barrier at the horseshoe. 3 drivers involved. That was a squabble that was right towards the back, actually. In fact, it might have involved all 3 of the novices. So that will lose them a bit of time to the rest of the pack.
And Teddy Clinton leads the race. He passed Turner and Rook. The 98 goes past Turner and Rook as well. As Turner and Rook's having another go, trying to get that second position back, and he's through. Yellow flags though, not at the post before hairpin. Oh, and the 98's off on the grass. So he's lost 2 positions in 1 corner. That is not ideal.
That's James Tomsit there, who got himself on the grass and killed a lot of pace heading down towards the horseshoe. Still a kart here getting a bit of treatment from Larshall, so we hope he's okay at the horseshoe. But across the line we go. Teddy Clinton and Tin and Rourke as your current top 2, the pole sitter and perhaps the race favourite as your current leading duo, with Joshua Poulain in 3rd place. We were mentioning his younger sister in the previous race, with James Tomsit, who lost a lot of that time and now sitting in 4th position. 5th place is the number 74 of Amelia Vincent, the other driver who started on the front rows. So perhaps the 2 who started at the front losing a little bit of time as they slip further down the order.
Absolutely, you can see I think it's struggling a little bit for pace in this particular race. The front 2 slipping down the order. Teddy Clinton already pulling a massive gap. We're only 2 minutes into the race and Teddy Clinton already seems like he wants to be in command of this race.
Yeah, there's a gap of nearly a second now, 0.98 of a second over the line on that previous lap, and with the quickest lap as well, 34.29. Difficult to see anyone but Teddy Clinton as the victor in this race. It was Sansbury and Brown have both picked up a winner piece so far today, so Teddy Clinton would be a new winner, but with a grid this large and with them all being shifted around those grids in the 4 different heats, always likely to see several different winners. Rourke, Poulain and Tomsit having a good squabble for second now. We suspect that the rest of the order for the top 10, perhaps minus the win for Teddy Clinton, is still very much got to be discovered.
Absolutely. Will Ellswood there moving up to 5th position in the Kara Sport graphics. Kara Sport isn't actually here this weekend, so he's running as a privateer with his dad, so it's a good effort nonetheless.
Yeah, good stuff. As they almost insurmountable lead being built by Teddy Clinton. Fantastic margin of 1.52 seconds now, but from Ryan Taylor Truman onwards, there's a half-second gap between Ellswood and Taylor Truman, but then back from there's so little gaps pretty much anywhere for the rest of the pack, and there's a bit of contact there as the number 14 is nearly spun round. Elliot Pickard does really well to save that one, at the exit of the S's there.
Absolutely, a bit of contact there, but you've got to look into the mid-pack. Tom Adams is right down in 14th position. You can see the advantage starting at the front of the field in such a big grid is giving to these front runners. Tom is barely making any progress. I think he's just been passed by Sam Stansbury, who's actually a bit ahead of him, so Tom really struggling to get through this field.
Yeah, it goes to show how competitive this class is, that, as I've mentioned many times, probably every race, so risk of sounding like a broken record. The senior max class, it really is hard to comprehend just how many quick drivers are up there, and you never really can know who's going to win it. One of the the winner of last meeting's final, Brandon Haig, he's not in this one, but he'll be up next in heat number 4. He'll be absolutely one to watch as well. But Clinton looking good for the race win in this one. 2.43 seconds now his margin, back to Tin and Rourke.
Yep, absolutely. There's a right squabble here going on for second. Will Ellswood, oh, Josh is going for it, and he's through in the hairpin, passing Will Ellswood. Will he defend the horseshoe? We have to wait and see. Yes, he does. Oh, and Will Ellswood knocks him out of the way, and straight through at the horseshoe. Josh is not going to be pleased about that one.
No, yeah, a little bit naughty there, as just desperate to try and reclaim that position, but contact was made. Don't know whether the nose cone might have just slotted back in the penalised position as a result of that one. But across the line it was William Ellswood, the number 79, who's got himself into second place. Tin and Rourke and Joshua Poulain in third and fourth now. Yeah, Poulain would not be too happy, but it's almost a repeat at the hairpin there. Looks very scruffy indeed. Heading down into the horseshoe, almost all of the drivers taking a fairly tight line. None of them want to drift out too wide and risk being overtaken.
Absolutely, Poulain is defending for his life to try and stop getting Ryan Taylor Truman past. The cart got properly sideways coming up to the hairpin because of Ryan looking. He's Ryan going to have a go. He might have, he has a look. Is he through? No, he's not. He's going to try the S's. Contact! Oh, contact again! And Josh and Ryan Taylor Truman lose a bunch of positions because of that.
That's going to absolutely kill their momentum heading down to the hairpin as well. Lots of positions lost into the hairpin. Anyone stuck on the outside here is going to get swamped by the rest of the field, but into the horseshoe, it's nail-biting stuff, and you just waiting for the contact to arrive, but it never did that time. Each of these drivers snaking their way around and just doing enough to avoid contact.
Yeah, they're all very bunched up now. They're all defending and attacking, of course, to try and get through. Is how they're going to have to move on. No, Tunin Rooks defending into Phillies. It's all helping out into Joshua Poulain's hands. To try
Massive
and get
impact there as a couple of drivers hit the tyre wall on the pit straight. Both came together straight into the side of the tyre wall, where we saw another driver go off a few races ago. Almost the exact same contact point. Looked a very high-speed incident, but both the drivers are instantly out of the carts, and that's a good sign. Yellow flags will be waved in that sector. Not a nice one to see, but it was almost always going to happen with a field this bunched up.
Yeah, Halliday is through the run. Yellow flags out, of course. So no taking, as the field is now really bunched up from fourth downwards.
Yeah, fourth currently being occupied by Josh Poulain, but he, well, at one stage really looked like he was going to get himself up into second place, but then after the horseshoe a few laps ago, now is struggling to stay ahead of the rest of the midfield. So bunched together here.
Yeah, Spencer Shinner there slamming the door in Tiernan Rook's face as they went into the horseshoe, forcing Tiernan over the curve, didn't gain the position. The yellow flag's out still, trying to get those cars out of the way, so everybody has to keep station.
Brilliant lead from Teddy Clinton though. Let's not forget he's currently leading the race now by 3.34 seconds. So a thoroughly impressive gap formed by Teddy Clinton, who started in third place, was able to instantly get himself into the race lead, and nothing there but a big contact between the number 56 and 32. So Joshua Poulain and Lewis Halliday coming together slightly. I think Halliday came off worse as a result of that.
Absolutely there. It was a bit of a marginal move by Josh, but he is through. But I think Ryan's going to... No, Josh is defending. And there's 26 seconds left on the clock. And there's a whole pack of carts behind Josh Poulain here. So he has to really keep his line. Is he going to defend down into the hairpin? Yes, he is. He's wise to that. Flicks the cart sideways to get it stopped. Oh, and he's through contact.
And Poulain here with contact nearly 3 abreast heading into the hairpin. The number 65 Taylor Truman is through, but Poulain just trying to keep his position, which he is able to for now. Side by side, a few drivers behind and into the top end. My co-commentator here could barely contain himself, Matcher.
Absolutely. Tom Adams and Spencer Shinner coming together, the two teammates from Coles. are absolutely battling it out to gain the positions. There's Schindler, a bit of a gap now. Maybe he can have a move on Josh Pullein, but it is the last lap.
Yeah, William Ellswood in second place and Archie Brown in third as well. I don't think there's going to be too much changing around those drivers, but my goodness, what a midfield battle we are witnessing here as Ryan Taylor-Truman in fourth place. He looks fairly set to get that position now. A brilliant drive by Teddy Clinton as he claims the victory. Second place will go to William Ellswood, but as they come out the top, they're not quite as close as they were on that previous lap. I think the bit of contact actually helped disperse the field a little bit.
Absolutely, they were all equalised rather after that first lap with no positions chopping and changing, but it shows you the dangers of driving in the midfield because it's just so easy to get sucked down into the battle. I believe Josh Pullein has a nose cone the way he's glancing at the front. He could have a nose cone.
Yeah, and he eventually finished in fifth place, but whether that will be his overall results that he's given, we'll just have to wait and see. That'll be confirmed over the next few races, I would have thought, although if it is a nose cone, then, well, that'll be confirmed pretty much instantaneously. But Teddy Clinton, what a dominant display.
Absolutely, he was quick and he had a high starting grid position for that particular race, which allowed him to really move away from the field. Sam Stansbury in 11th, he was actually disqualified from the first heat for being underweight, so he might be in the repechage.
Okay, that'll be very interesting to see the B final, number 26, the race. So have the A final coming up as the last race of the day. Of course, as always, top few will make their way into the A final as a result of that B. Time then for the final Honda Cadet heat of the day. Often this race, along with the final of course, is where a lot of the drivers will make slightly more optimistic manoeuvres, really try to get those overtakes where perhaps the gap isn't quite big enough. As a result, it makes for some fantastically entertaining racing. Always such a big fan of the Honda Cadet class. And why wouldn't you be when the racing is often as entertainment as it is, and with a grid of 26, including 5 novices actually, so young drivers coming through the ranks. Let's hope to see some of them get some good results as well. Looks like it's going to be Logan Bennett alongside Jack West on the front row. Oliver Gusman and Sam Green Gomez were your top 4 heading across the line. See as they just slot into each of their positions. Some sides of the grid often a little more overzealous than others, but as we head down towards the timing line and across the line we go, Bennett and West as your top 2. And let's see who does get the advantage then heading into the Sturmey straight. The first couple of corners as the drivers tussle with one another. The 38 of Gusman has got himself up into second, or at least did at the start of the Sturmies, but number 20, he does not look like a happy camper there. Noah Pikes, who presumably contact was made. Luckily didn't seem to make contact with any of the barriers, just drifted off to the side of the circuit, spun around. Luckily didn't collect any other carts along the way. And look at the top 3 then as they head across the line. It's Harrison Whitcomb who has climbed himself into the leading spots. Jack West in second, third Logan Bennett with Dylan Hayward in 4th, and well, Hayward the winner provisionally of a fantastic second heat. As they head out of the hairpin into the horseshoe we go, and it is the 66 of Harrison Whitcomb who leads the way for now. Top end we come then. Almost nothing to separate from 3rd down to 10th. Let's see what the order is. It is 9th actually. Yeah, with 10th actually Hugh Moulton as well in 10th position. He's not far adrift. Freddie Worlock is then 0.7 of a second away in 11th place. But bumper to bumper and down the Sturmey straight, it seems like the slipstream from the cars behind is really benefiting those drivers who want to pick their way through the field. Number 92 of Jack West looking to give Harrison Whitcomb a headache. At the moment, Whitcomb defending well though. In 3rd is Dalton Hayward, who's trying to just catch up to those leading duo, leave the drivers behind for dust. See if he'll be able to do that. Hugh Moulton actually had the quickest lap time on that previous lap of the race so far, but that was just before Dalton Hayward sets a 40.91, which is the quickest of the race so far. The only driver to get beneath that 41 second barrier in this heat. Still very early days. I'm sure we'll see some quicker laps as the race goes on, but Whitcomb, West and Hayward is your current top 3. Fourth, 5th, 6th and 7th, almost nothing to separate them as well. Freddie Baker maybe over a second adrift of Hayward, but Cameron Nelson, Hugh Moulton and Logan Bennett for company means he won't be getting lonely anytime soon. Let's have a look up the inside there. Dalton Hayward on Jack West. Did he complete the manoeuvre, the number 68? It looked fairly simple, and he has indeed. So Jack West initially there to try and challenge Harrison Whitcomb for the lead, now finds himself in 3rd, battling to get back in his original position. Freddie Baker struggling to keep hold of 4th as well, have the inside for Buttons, but a little bit of speed shed on the outside of the horseshoe there. Lucky that the next corner was a right-hander. Across the line go the top 3, Whitcomb, Hayward and West, then Baker, Moulton, Minspearing, and it's Nelson as well. Cameron Nelson as heading up the inside there. The change for 4th, and the number 51 of Hugh Moulton finds his way through and up into 4th place there. Freddie Baker did look like he was having to defend a little bit to try and keep that position, but eventually no holding out to the superior pace of Hugh Moulton. plenty of battles going on throughout the field as well. Seems almost no one is safe really. Everyone's got at least one other kart for company. Is right on the back of Hayward now is Harrison Whitcomb, the previous race leader. As Dalton Hayward has found a way past. Onto the stubby straight we go, and it is Dalton Hayward, your new race leader, with Harrison Whitcomb in second, Jack West in third. Still onlooking proceedings, but not close enough to make it to take advantage of Hayward finding his way through. Having a little look at the inside there as well, the number 40, Cameron Nelson. I think he's trying to get past Freddie Baker as well. Baker's got to be cautious here not to lose more positions than his pace is worth. Across the line we go, no way through for Whitcomb this time, but as we see so frequently in the Honda Cadets, once you get ahead, so